Really?
España.
What part, though?
The north from Zaragoza and from Gijón. So just a little bit west of Barcelona is where, on my grandmother's side. My father's side, more from Gijón, which is Extremadura.
Sí.
And y el resto, varios pueblos alrededor de Barcelona.
Okay. I know where you are.
But my family came to Mexico. The first one was in 1519.
Oh, so you've been here for a minute. You've been over here for a second. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Dad's side got here long before my mother's.
Other 1700s, the rest.
Oh, that's awesome. All Mexico?
All to Mexico or southern U.S. because they had land.
That's nice.
My family used to own a lot of land.
Well, except that the U.S. government stole it from
500,000 acres.
If you want to read his book.
My family used to own
and
Santa Fe.
And the U.S. government just like took it, just like one of those?
Pretty well, yeah.
Oh,
after the Mexican-American War, 1848, 500,000 acres.
Just took
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Really?
The town of Las Vegas.
Stop it.
No, seriously.
Oh, my God.
One of my relatives was the first mayor.
You got to give her a copy of the book, Fred.
I got to sign it, though.
Yes.
Write something fun.
I shall.
So, hey, everybody. Welcome again to the Leverage Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Octavio Venturas. We are joined by the preeminent cardiologist, Dr. Federico Macy. Most of you know him as Dr. Suave.
I mean, it makes sense.
We are very
In
excited.
past lives.
We are very excited to have our guest, Alyssa, who
Williams.
is Alyssa Williams, which it means from Wales.
Yeah, Williams means from Wales.
Who is, we're very
But
excited.
Alyssa has a different name. Yes, it's Greek.
Oh, what
She was
Alyssa
saying-
means?
She was saying what it means.
Yeah,
Right.
Literally against madness, rational.
Yeah. You're outnumbered again, Federico. We got another Greek on here, partial Greek. So we might actually get some results this time. But we're very excited to talk to you because you are one thing that is very important in our discussions with Leverage is diet
Yes.
and community. And you're a general manager for a very well-known food chain. And so we would like to get some of your thoughts and ideas of where the restaurant industry is heading, because it is so important in American culture as the sort of centerpiece of where people get community.
Well, correct, yes.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the center of everything. So, I mean, my mother was always really big. My mother's a great cook. So that's kind of where all this started. I was always in the kitchen with her. And she would always say the kitchen's the heart of the home. And I kind of feel like restaurants have become the extension of that. So it's where everyone meets. It's where, you know, you're having a bad day, you go and sit with your favorite bartender and have a drink, and they know what you're drinking. Or you're having a great day, so you have, you know, party with your friends. So to me, restaurants are such a staple for nutrition and for people. I really think it's an emotional thing.
It's a connection
It is.
among people, more than just the food.
Oh.
And of the food being incredibly important. As I think a fly just flew by, but we shall ignore it. Maybe they think we have food.
Well, in other parts of the world, you know, there might be a town center where everybody goes and hangs out, or I know in Greece, everybody goes to the park, the platea, and just
like the plazas. I mean, well, the oldest restaurant in the world is off of the major plaza in Madrid. So, and it's been there since 1725. So.
Wow.
Well, as a
did not
Greek,
know
I
that.
would have to say that's not the oldest in the world.
It's
Maybe
the
the
oldest
oldest
restaurant, not the oldest
Actual name.
Actual name.
of
Actual
restaurant.
title.
Well, but anyway, your story goes way back. You started to have an interest in food since you were,
Since I can remember.
yeah,
I mean, in my
family
first very
being the initiating seed.
big Catholic family, which
Right.
means big Catholic.
Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Fort Worth,
Fort
but
Worth,
my
right.
mother's family's from Dallas, so we were always over here.
Right.
Every wedding tended to be in Dallas, but you know, every major family
Right.
festival or whatever was always surrounded by food. I mean, it's our core.
And then, Alyssa, you mentioned you went to A&M,
I did go to A&M. I was a communication double minor business Spanish.
right? And
After-
then from there to Europe.
I went to Paris and went to culinary school. I'm at Ferrandi.
Oh, wow.
how long were you there?
I was in Paris for a year, and I worked.
How did you get in? Isn't it incredibly difficult?
It's the international program, so it's where it's taught in English. You probably have about 500 applicants a year, and it tend to take about 50. So it's like there's two separate. It's like essentially like you're either in spring or fall. I was a fall.
Right.
Part of.
What was the criteria that they selected you from? Like, how do they whittle down the 500 to 50?
I mean, so they have it's either spring or fall, and each one's 25, and they break them down into two classes. There's about 12 to like 13 people in each class. They make you write an essay. They make you explain why you want to go to culinary school. You have to have references. I happen to be very close to Chef Bruno Davion, who's here in Dallas.
And
when
you'd already worked in the restaurant business for some time, right?
I was working. I mean, my first job was a Sonic car hop when I was 15. So I kind of like I've come up.
Did you have the roller
I
skate?
never rolled. I never had the roller skates. I was too afraid that I would fall because like when you hit those floors and they're wet, terrifying.
I can.
But he wrote my recommendation letter for me in French.
Orthopedic surgeons recommend the roller skates.
Really?
Yeah, because then you're going to come in.
Yeah,
and
I don't want to be. I was like,
and that
for
needs
their
surgery.
for their practice. Yeah.
Oh no, who was thinking of that?
Kind of like you just
For the exercise.
It's healthy. It's good for your bones.
Absolutely.
But now I always love food. I remember being a little girl always in the kitchen, and I was actually going to go to medical school, and I remember I had like kind of like a crisis my sophomore year, and
Was it organic chemistry?
I was at medical science. I was never. I ended up never had to take that class, thank God. But I had like kind of like a what am I going to do with my life? And it was an Easter Sunday, and I looked around and I was like marinating and cooking a lamb shoulder for Easter dinner for my friends and piping mushrooms. And I was like, okay, this is what you love.
Right.
You like to feed people. You like to be with people. You want to throw I basically throw a dinner party every night. It's the best job in the world.
Wow. Sounds like what we've had here from time to time.
Exactly.
Yes.
Dinner parties are the best.
Yes. From there, so your application was accepted. You had a great reference. Plus, obviously, you probably wrote a very compelling letter.
I did.
And you must have been ecstatic when you got that letter of acceptance.
I definitely cried when I opened up that letter. I'll admit it. I burst into tears. So I went over. That was September of 2015. I was 25. And I lived in the South. I mean, I would jump on the metro.
Where did you live?
I was in the 14th arrondissement. So I was in the 14th on the very south end. In my school, Ferrandi's in the 6th 16th arrondissement, and then I worked in the 11th. So I worked at a place called Septime, which is an incredibly famous restaurant.
Was that part of the curriculum that you had to work?
You have to finish at least a 3-month stage, and a stage is where you traditionally you go and essentially work for free. So you go and like beg
in the kitchen basically.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they tell you to do.
Whatever, and they will tell you. I mean, it's a crate of beans, and you have 45 minutes to clean them. And why are you so slow? And like, let's go. I mean, it is very
high
militant,
intensity,
very militant, because it's a brigade system. So it's literally there's a hierarchy in a French kitchen.
Yeah, it's like a military school.
It's very much
in
like
the
military. So I can peel a potato faster.
Like
than
here
I
goes
know.
that fork.
Like the movie Ratatouille.
Yes. There's actually a movie called Septime, which is why they named the restaurant where I staged Septime.
Oh,
it's
cool.
a very famous French about the restaurant Septime. So they actually made their own Septime. I think it's like right now it might be the last time I checked for Pellegrino, I think it was number 15 in the world. Wow. Very small, very hard to get into, beautiful food, beautiful quality, beautiful product.
So what happened next? 3 months were there, and did you work your way up the hierarchy?
I was definitely the stagiaire. I mean, my job was you had to be there at 8:30, and that's exactly when the sous chef would roll up on her little
right.
And she was very intense. She worked at like 3-star Michelins. Like she was a Ferrandi grad as well. And I mean, my job was to run up the stairs, change, get back down the stairs, pull all the boxes of the fish onto the elevator, go downstairs, get them all into the fridge, organize them, then run back up and get to the sister restaurant next door, which was Septime, because they had a fridge downstairs. And I would have to rip apart trash bags, plastic the entire wall, and start scaling the fish. And when I say it was like boxes of and beautiful fish, they're all from Brittany, but it'd be a stack of fish like this high, like boxes upon boxes, and they'd be like, yeah, if you want to learn to do anything else, you're going to have to move fast enough for us to actually have time to teach you. So you should get going.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was
run 5 miles, and then we can start teaching you how to run.
And then maybe I'll show you how to break down a duck. It was very much like that. So, I mean, great experience. Very difficult.
Lots of tears some days.
Oh my God, I remember.
Sore hands.
Did you ever see people that couldn't hack that kind of? Because
absolutely.
Oh, I mean, there was several kids, or like fellow students in my class where they couldn't finish their stage, and if you didn't finish your stage, you didn't graduate. So or they would walk out, or the chef would just didn't like that stage, so they would do everything in their power to like scare them and get them to leave. So there were a couple people in my class. I think there were about 3 of them that just like they didn't get their diploma.
Right.
So.
Because they couldn't hack that kind of
no, it's
abuse. It's abuse.
It's emotional. They're there to terrorize you.
And were you living on your own, or were you living
I
with
had a wonderful
roommate?
No, I had a wonderful. I don't know, even to this day. I don't know how I found this apartment. So when I moved to Paris, I didn't have an apartment. I had a real estate agent that I've been emailing back and forth, and so I literally got on the plane to Paris not knowing where I was going to live. worked out. I had this beautiful little apartment. I was lucky enough that I had my bathroom in my apartment, and I also had a washing machine, which most people don't have.
Yeah,
Sure.
So I would
tremendous
have
luxuries.
I had the little luxuries. Like I didn't have to share there was like the bathroom on the floor. I had an elevator in the building. It's a big deal. But I lived, and the Catorceum's like a very family neighborhood. I was definitely living with the French. Like when I would go to the grocery store, all I would hear was French. I would hear like the husband on the phone with his wife.
Do you speak French fluently now?
I don't speak it fluently. I was learning it. I speak Spanish minor, but much better. French, I was learning, but once I got to SEP team, they would speak to me in English all day. So I can take commands in French. If you're yelling at me in French, I'm going to know what you're asking me for. But, like,
And she's going to start peeling fish.
Yeah, I just start speaking.
On
This is
instinct.
what you want. No, so that... no, I can definitely take commands. But no, my French is, I can understand, but I'm not very good at speaking.
So you got through that 3-month
Got
ordeal.
through 3 months. I came back. I worked at the mansion on Turtle Creek.
Was that when Dean Faring was there?
No, that was when Bruno was there. So
Oh,
Bruno was the executive chef of the mansion at the time. So he gave me my first job when I came back. When he left to go to Bouillon, to open up Bouillon, I went front of house and was like cocktailing, bartending. So I've done everything in a restaurant as opposed to being an executive chef, pastry chef, and a somm.
Right.
I've held every other title. So I went front of house, and then I ended up moving to New York.
But you were a somm.
I haven't been I'm working on my somm right now.
Got it.
But I've been a sous chef, but I've never been a somm. So, or a pastry chef. Even like
Somm being short for sommelier.
yes.
Right.
Sorry for our
For our
for our audience, not yours.
yeah. So somms are a read. I have really good friends for sommeliers. They're very, very intense, brilliant people.
At the mansion on Turtle Creek, Bruno, the executive chef,
Yes.
did he accept any input if you'd go in and, hey, by the way, I think we should do this or that?
Or
that was just not on the...
He's one of the best teachers I've ever had. Like, I really do respect him. He is an old school French chef who was trained. He worked for Alain Ducasse, but Bruno never yells. It's always like a very, like, this needs to happen
Structured.
just like this. It's very structured. I want you to make it just like this. And he's a great teacher in terms of, I remember I was destroying risotto. I was on the hotline. It was a hot app, and I kept making it too stiff, too thin, and like just snuck up right behind me. It was like, I'm going to show you how to make risotto. And I've been able to make it perfectly ever since. So you put the butter last. That's the key.
master taught you.
Yes.
And so you ended up in New York.
So I moved. I was at the mansion for 3 years, and I ended up going to New York, and I worked at the Modern, which is a 2-star Michelin in the Modern Art Museum.
Right.
I was there for probably about 4 to 5 months. No, probably about 6 months. And then I began opening a sous chef in a restaurant in the meatpacking district. So I was there in New York for about a year and a half. And then
Where did you stay when you were in New York?
I lived in Hell's Kitchen, and then I lived in Chelsea. So I was lucky enough that I was actually on the island. I wasn't having the long commutes because I mean, most people are like, I live in Brooklyn, and it takes me an hour and a half like to get to the restaurant. And I'm like, and you're too tired. Like, it's just, New York's just like Paris, where it's go, 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 go.
Right.
And you better be fast, and it better be perfect, especially if you're in Michelin star graded restaurants. So even the thought of having that commute, like, that would have killed me. So then I ended up moving back. I went and worked at
You moved back? Why? You just weren't feeling New York? Or?
New York is like, I love it. I love visiting it. Like, New York's a hard place to live, especially like as a Southerner. It's like a completely different culture. And it was the first time I was ever homesick. Like, I've lived all over the world, or mostly I've lived in Europe multiple times, but it was missing the family. Like, my brother, I have a niece, and then my other brother was, they were pregnant with their little boy, and I was just like, I'm tired of being away from
Let me interrupt for a sec. So if you had to compare the Paris restaurant environment, and we're talking the high end,
yes,
to the New York high end environment, in terms of quality, price point, clientele, recurrent business.
we're talking about like 3-star Michelins.
Yeah, we're talking the
Like,
high
so like
end.
the L'arpège, the Per Se, like they're very similar creatures.
Very similar.
Because a big reason for that is because the chefs that work in those restaurants they've been trained by each other.
Right.
So, someone's like, I know these chefs who, they worked at a Messon Park, and now they're at Per Se, or they went out to the French Laundry, or they went to Paris and they worked at L'Arpège.
It's kind of, it sounds like it's an ancestral community.
We all know each other. Like,
It's a tight
or you
community.
at least know
Right.
the names. Like, this chef's worked with this chef, and like, they'll send one of their line cooks to go stage with one of their friends. And it's like, so it's a community that definitely is big on history and big on learning.
Right.
So education's a huge thing in the food industry.
And so are they a bit snooty?
The
to
chefs
up-and-comers?
or
Executive chefs.
The executive chefs are
The
usually
head
the sweet
guys.
ones. The sous chefs are the ones you have to watch out for because
I
they're the
see.
whip at the kitchen. The executive chef's usually the nicest guy
Yeah.
because he
They're
just
on
walks
top. They've
in.
made
Yeah,
it.
yeah. He walks in. He's like, I want you guys to take these peaches and make this. And yes,
How
yes,
many?
chef.
How many women became executive chefs during the time you were there? Was it male dominated?
It's very male
profession?
dominated predominantly. But there's
Has
some
it
great.
changed?
Not really. I mean, I think that there are some great executive women chefs, but
Right.
generally speaking, like your big bad names are predominantly male.
Male. So, in the clientele, the politicians, the who's who. The
Oh yes, the payment at 8.
celebrities.
Well,
Yeah,
I
right.
was working at the SEP team, and everyone was like freaking. Tom Hanks came and ate there,
Right.
And I mean, it was so funny because the executive chef for SEP team is Bertrand Gaboa, and he's a younger guy. His family's from Bordeaux, went to Ferrandi, really, but like kind of a hipster. I'll never forget because Tom Hanks came for lunch, and I'm staging. I'm busy. Like I'm more concerned that I have these beets peeled or whatever it was I was working on that day. And he's like, Alyssa, look, it's Tom. He was so starstruck, and I'm just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then I realized that Tom Hanks
Hanks.
just sitting there like casually having lunch. So
Right.
it's yes. So you see kind of everything in these
He
restaurants.
also married a Greek.
Did he?
Yes.
Yes, and he says that that's the best thing he ever did.
Yeah. Well, they've been together a long time.
Everybody
And
take a
happy
drink when I
family.
mention Greece.
Yes.
There's drinking games associated with
we
our
have
podcast.
a drinking game.
Oh,
here.
perfect. I love
Yeah.
that.
The words have to come out spontaneously, though. It cannot
Right,
be
right.
just for the sake of it. You shall see.
Okay.
So-
So, every time you say one now.
That's one of them, but there's other
Yes,
ones.
there
I'll
are other
mention
ones.
them
I shall pop one in there at the right moment.
Okay.
So, in those two experiences, did it give you? I know you were homesick, but did they give you sort of the internal drive to say, I belong here. I want to be in this type of environment, meaning work environment,
I think-
high end food, perfection to the max. See, we have something
It's a
flying
little-
in here.
I think that hospitalians are hospitalians. I think it's a personality type. I think that, you're Danny Myers, that's who I worked for in New York. You have the Lombardi family here. You have the Barbier family here. You have so many people, and you have to have this innate desire to serve and to talk and to engage with people.
Right.
And I think for me, the biggest way to take care of someone to show love, and I think that's why, when there's a funeral, when there's a wedding, when there's anything, like you bring food. So my reaction just innately has always been if someone's upset or if someone's going through a hard time or someone's having a, it's a celebration, like you bring food.
Right.
And then there's so much history behind like food, and we're lucky to be in the
course.
United States because we're such a melting pot that we kind of get the best of everything.
Right.
And you can find the community with the food that you want to go eat.
No doubt.
I mean-
in all major centers,
You
just
get-
about.
Just in any major city, you can
Right.
find what you want.
So then you decide to return to Dallas, and who
So I
did you
moved back
take
to
a job with?
Dallas. I ended up working for the Barbier family in Harwood. And from there, that's when so they hired me as like a hostess or a cocktail server.
So
And-
let me ask, before the pandemic, before you took that job, it was taken for granted that the restaurant business would continue
Oh, absolutely.
indefinitely.
I remember
thriving.
I remember the night the pandemic hit, and like when they were shutting the doors down, and like I remember the panic that swept.
Correct.
I mean, it was because we couldn't find. We're trying to stay open. We're already trying to fight it. and
We were at Up and Knox I was with Raj
Right.
that day.
it's
right?
insane. Well, I mean, because then suddenly it's like you have to have hand sanitizer. You have to
Alyssa,
have gloves.
how many people, and I'm asking because I don't know, work in the restaurant business in the U.S.? I'm not talking fast food restaurants.
No,
I'm
no, like in
talking
actual restaurants.
Actual restaurants, like the ones that you have been
Oh
fortunate
God,
to work
it's
at.
like 15% of the population.
It's that
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, at the height of the pandemic, I know that like 110,000 restaurants closed, and I mean, just like shuttered because they couldn't handle it. Like, what do you do?
There was
like,
no.
What we didn't know because I think everyone when it first started, everyone's reaction was like, "Oh, this is going to be like a couple weeks. This is going to be maybe a month or
Right.
so," and then it was like, "Oh, we're in it," and then it
Right.
became like it just kept getting more and more like gloves, hand sanitizers, and then everything. Inflation hit it with it.
So the takeout took over a little bit of that gap.
The majority of restaurants survived. That's how they survived. They became like, you can't come to us.
We'll go to you.
We'll go to
deliver
you.
to you.
I mean,
We'll put those signs on you can't park here because it's a pickup, 15-minute pickup.
exactly.
Right.
I mean,
Which are still all around.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that Uber Eats
not legal, you
DoorDash
guys.
like murdered it because
Yes.
of it, and that's I think why a lot of restaurants actually got onto Uber Eats and got onto DoorDash. it's, majority of restaurants don't want to be known for takeout. They want you to come in and sit down and dine. But, I know restaurants where they would have wine specials with their to-goes so that it's like you can get everything here. Like you don't need to go to, we all know that liquor and wine sales skyrocketed during COVID.
Yes.
So a lot of restaurants became like one-stop shops, and it was like the one place where you actually had a little bit of human interaction because even if you're walking in just to get it, it's like, it's still the manager, or the chef that or the bartender they have working to goes. But I mean, I think that's how restaurants kind of save themselves, but I think it's also how people kind of save themselves so they didn't feel so isolated.
Correct, yeah. But I imagine many not only lost their jobs.
Oh, it was
especially
crazy.
The wait staff.
Oh, gone.
Busboys,
dishwashers. I mean, these restaurants, if you're not bringing in money, you can't pay them.
Right.
So it was like a lot of management would get furloughed, but I mean, the wait staff, it was like you're gone. Right. The managers became the waiters.
Right.
And then when it kept going, we were all furloughed. I mean, for me personally, during the pandemic, I was actually doing dinner parties at people's homes because no one could go out. So I would have regulars of mine from the restaurant who knew my background. Yeah. And they would call me and be like, hey, I just want to have 6 people over for a really nice dinner. Like, will you make a menu? Will you come over? And so I was cooking, and I was also doing meal plans for, guests that had specific nutritional needs and allergens and whatnot. So they would call me and be like, I need you to make me 6 meals for this week.
Right.
And I can't have this and that. So that's once I was furloughed and once, we were kind of, up in the air, that's what I was doing. So it just, everyone kind of had to just evolve and adapt. Yeah, it went full survival mode.
Yeah. So at that time though, with so many businesses closed as well, and you guys are trying to do your best with the takeout and home delivery and so on, there must have been a collective sigh of saying, even though we may be getting PPP loans or, and so on, this is destroying some of the fabric that has been built over the last, I'm going to go back, a couple of 100 years.
Oh, yes.
In our culture, to have those meeting places that are so helpful to people's psyche, and specifically to...
Well, specifically in America, where we don't have other locations or places for
gathering places.
The mall?
Yeah. So in Greece, so you've lived in Corfu. You I'm sure Alyssa will share with us a little bit about your time in Spain. Of just going to a public square.
Well, I mean, if you walk the streets of Paris, everyone's sitting on a corner at a cafe.
Right.
Have a glass of wine at the end of work, or they're having a coffee during the day. I mean, Italy's
reading
the same
paper,
way. I guess for us, the closest thing is we do coffee shops are a big thing for us, where people go.
Only in the last 20 years.
But that's only in the last 20 years. I mean, for them, it's always been that way, where it's, you go. I mean,
part of the culture.
It's part of the culture. Yeah. You go sit at a cafe, and they're everywhere.
One of the centenarians in, is it Korea? In Italy, I'm forgetting the exact town. Collective age, husband and wife, are about 200 years. And their routine is get up in the morning, put on a jacket, he puts on a tie, she puts on a nice dress, lipstick, hat. They walk probably, I'm going to venture to say quarter mile. They're 100, up and downstairs to the coffee shop to take their breakfast.
Yes.
With like-minded people.
Right.
Spend an hour or two, walk right back, take a little nap, and do it again in the afternoon.
I mean, but that's a lovely life. I would love to have that life.
And they're 100.
I would like to just be 100 walking around.
How long have you done this? You go, I cannot remember not doing it.
I mean, and I think another part is with restaurants, restaurants are routine in people's lives.
Yes.
It's kind of, people are creatures
they
of
are
habit.
ours.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
My family went to Los Vaqueros every Sunday.
That's the Mexican restaurant here?
Well, it's where Mi Cocina is now.
Okay.
It was originally Los Vaqueros and Mi Cocina.
Okay.
And we just kept that tradition. And so that was no
I mean,
matter what else was going on, you knew that Sunday night we were all going to get together and have some Mexican food.
That was we would go to, I'm Roman Catholic, we would go to Saturday night mass at the Spanish church. So we would go to the Spanish mass. We would grab the priest and we would go down the street to the local Mexican restaurant.
Right.
And
have a little wine.
Have a little wine. Oh, Father loved tequila. So
Right.
Father knew what he wanted. He loved tequila.
Yes.
So
don't we all?
Don't we? It's good for you.
Yes. For your nucleus accumbens. To give you your dopamine.
Drink, everybody drink.
That's the next word.
Oh my God.
Or
I
term.
don't know how you're going to
Nucleus accumbens.
I don't know how you're going to slip that
Well,
in.
it's your brain that gets that pleasure, that dopamine high.
Well, I also have heard that they did a study on tequila, and it actually helps with the good flora in your
gut,
in your gut,
your biodome,
exactly, which is what essentially your immune system. So for
Correct.
me,
absolutely,
I think it's a probiotic.
Absolutely, the tequila
That's right. This is the content that you guys are here for.
The
Tequila is
probiotic
actually a
culture.
probiotic. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Especially, well, I don't want to pitch certain brands, but there are some more than others. Not all are made alike.
Get the 100% agave, people.
But during the pandemic, of course, such uncertainty and for everyone in your industry in particular was just catastrophic.
Well, I mean, it's also it affected everything because you're not just dealing with the fact that we can't even have guests in, but then you have the whole problem of getting product.
Absolutely.
Because
no
manufacturing, there's no delivery. Manufacturing's backed up
The supply
everywhere,
lines.
especially, paper goods. And
Right.
that's your to go. Because
Yes.
if you don't have the container to put the go in, what are you going to hand it to them? So
Someone asked me how I would have done it as a doctor, and I'll say it briefly. I would have we know, obviously, that the COVID-19 virus affected predominantly people over 60 with pre-existing conditions, right?
Yes.
The rest, pretty low rate of, case fatality rates were very low. So I would have kept older individuals come in between 5 and 7, clear out the restaurant,
right.
and then after
Sanitize
8 p.m.,
everything.
if you're under, say, 50
Come
and
on
no pre-existing conditions, you have a little letter from your doctor saying, I don't have any, and you're in. And party and have fun, and we'll have young wait staff who is not at risk, and the rest of you vaccinated older individuals, come on earlier.
yeah. I mean,
And then we clean everything.
Yeah, we'll sanitize it down. We sanitize everything.
How cool
anyway.
would that have been?
Well, if you'd been in charge, a lot of things would have been different. Yeah, that's how they should have done
I
it.
think it would have worked.
No, of course.
And you
No,
keep
it
it open
definitely
till
would.
2 a.m, an extra hour, because you need to give certain numbers of hours so they can do 2 or 3 servings, turn the table 2 or 3 times.
And again, people would love that because I'm like, liquor laws, you can be able to too.
Yeah,
You're fine.
It could have made as an executive emergency utilization restaurant act.
Yeah.
Hey, I think I just came up with something, but I think a lot would have been behind it.
Oh no, everyone
And it
would have been
makes
behind
sense.
that. I mean, there were so many people, like everyone I talked to, at least my group of friends, were like, "This is insane.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
this is like
Drastic.
It was so drastic.
with almost no data.
Yeah. It was
That's the
basically
other part.
it was a free for all,
You have to have
we're
data.
and we're being yelled. It's like you have this. It's like,
Yeah.
can you tell me why? It's like, no, just believe it. It's like, well, that's
Group
not a
think
thing.
like that can be very catastrophic for certain industries. Now, on the other hand, though, thank God we're beyond that. So there's been a great recovery, has there not been?
Oh, people were ready to come out.
Right.
Like, I mean, in the restaurant that I'm currently managing, I mean, I am busy all the time.
Right.
Brunches
Yeah.
are back in
I see you
Dallas. I
running
can say
around.
that. Yeah.
Every time I go over there, there 5 things in your one hand, someone asking a question on the other,
Okay.
phone's ringing.
I have to
The
be at the
hostess
front,
is okay. I don't
So
have
this
tables.
this isn't the restaurant you're opening. This is the one you're
The
currently.
current one.
The
yes.
current one.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm kind of in between at the moment because I'm about to open a new restaurant
Right.
for
Right.
the company that I work for. But
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: during the pandemic, the online ordering took off.
yes.
Isn't online ordering bad for the bottom line for restaurants? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like one of those necessary evils now.
Turn your body a little bit that way so the camera can take full advantage of you.
So
I'll move this way a bit. Move that way a bit.
a big thing is that it's a necessary evil because you're bringing in money, but the delivery fees alone, like what Uber and DoorDash
Right.
do
It's not
take,
enough. It's not enough.
it's insane. And then you also your paper costs are so much higher
Yeah.
because you are doing, and you're not getting really on that. So
Right.
and prices are constantly changing, given supply and given manufacturing. So you're calling every single company,
Your
like every
margins
other.
are low.
Yeah, you have to it's a console.
And
This box of containers is 45. You're getting 45 cents less per container, and that it adds up. So it's like a constant. You're constantly juggling, and then it also you have to be careful with to-goes because even though they're so popular now, you can't just leave your tablets on and it syncs your line. Where the people who are in the restaurant aren't waiting 45 minutes for their food because you had a huge to-go come
Right.
in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like but yes, it's
and the other thing, the
it's not bad.
ambience-
It's not good either.
Yeah, the other invites you to order. Oh, I'll have another appetizer. You know what?
I
Another
have one
bottle
more
of
last
wine.
night. Yeah,
What are they having? Oh, bring us some of that.
that's a big one.
All of that is brought on by that experience,
Right.
which you're just going from a very fruitful experience to a very sterile experience of the delivery model. Right?
I mean, and delivery, like we all have our nights where we're like, I don't want to go out,
Right.
but I'm craving this.
yeah,
You can get it from your favorite restaurant, great. But I mean, generally speaking, I'm a restaurant girl. Obviously, like I like to be around people.
Yeah.
Usually I call myself a bar top girl. I always want to sit at the bar top, unless obviously it's a family event. But yeah, but I mean, where I work right now, we're stacked with to-goes all the time. But I do have I have to be careful because if I'm on a busy Friday night, I got to turn them down or kind of chill them out because otherwise there's a line of to-go tickets and it's going to affect my guests that are sitting and dining.
Those are the ones that you really want to prioritize.
Well, I mean, because of the interaction.
They're the regulars.
They're my regulars, and it's like they're my guests. Like they're coming out
Right.
for an experience just as much as it's not just about the good food. It's not just about the service. It's about the overall feeling that you get when you go out. And I mean, people want to feel a certain way when they go out.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that's one of the main things that I've discovered on the journey of doing this podcast is I used to think that it was like calories in, calories out, nutrition in, nutrition out, as long as you're doing it.
Nope.
And what I've discovered with Dr. Suave, but also some of our guests, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And it's the feeling of community. What you're doing while you eat is going to change how that food affects you. It literally.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have high cortisol when you're eating, then your body's going to absorb the food differently than if you're in a community setting at a restaurant with the hostess that you love, with the decor that you love.
I mean, I'm notorious for I sit down with my guests because
Yes.
some of my dearest friends are people that I've met while I was working. Like whether I was bartender that
Isn't that how you met Fred?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
He came in for
Business
lunch one
meeting.
day and he was in a business
That's where we
meeting.
go every 2 weeks for a business meeting.
And so I was like, he and I are both
Chit-chat.
chat. We're
Yes.
very chit chatty people. So
Yes.
he and I started kind of teasing. Surprise!
Yeah.
We started teasing each other, and he had me and it was a very busy day for me that
Yes,
day.
it
But he had me almost in tears because he's hilarious.
Dr. Suave.
Sometimes.
Dr. Suave most of the time, but and he was like, "Hey, we should do this. We should talk about the restaurant industry." I was
Yes.
like, "I'm for it."
It's
so,
a great topic, and I cannot see life without the restaurant. There isn't a week when I don't go for dinner or lunch at least 2, 3, 4 times a week, and I like to cook at home, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
But I value my restaurant experience.
I mean,
and,
for me-
and I don't like to go to cheap, lousy places.
No.
You know that. That's not
well,
me.
I think the big thing with me especially is it's the type of restaurant you're going.
Right.
I'm not going to a chain.
No,
I'm not going to this. I don't like cookie cutter restaurants. I want an experience. I want an environment that is its own self. It's when I go to a certain restaurant, I love one of my favorite restaurants in Dallas, Beverly's.
Right.
And I love the feel and vibe of Beverly's.
Yeah.
It's the food's great.
I love sitting at the bar there. And
I love it. It's
even
beautiful
if you go by
with all the
yourself.
Aperol on the top.
Yes.
It's gorgeous. So it's and sometimes I just need a bowl
Bartenders
of matzo ball
are
soup.
colorful.
Best espresso martinis, swear.
Yeah.
But I love that restaurant.
Beverly's has the best espresso martinis?
It's okay. It's in the top Dallas.
Okay.
Beverly's, and it's also at Clifton Club because I own both. Have you been to Clifton Club? It's gorgeous too.
Just next door. It just opened, 6 months ago?
Yeah, he hasn't been there very long, but
Yes.
it's a beautiful.
It's where
long-
Zippers used to go. You remember that one?
Zippers.
No, I didn't freak out.
No? I thought, with that shirt you're wearing tonight, Zippers would have been right there calling
Hey, this
you.
is my Magnum PI shirt.
It is a Magnum.
It
PI
is
shirt.
a Magnum PI.
I know.
Is the Ferrari's outside too?
It's amazing.
I
But
just
no.
shaved the mustache.
Oh my god, dying.
Tom Selleck. Does he still have one?
I think so.
He's
Can he be Tom Selleck without the mustache?
No, I guess not.
That's
He's
your
had quite a
brand.
run.
Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones, but he turned it down.
He
Are you
did,
serious?
didn't he? Yeah.
That was a bad move.
That
on
was
his
the
part.
first choice for Spielberg?
Yeah, he was a much bigger star.
Wow.
Well, they didn't want to go in the well ice with Harrison. But anyway, I digress. So back to what you were saying.
No, I just generally speaking, I think that the restaurants that I really want to see and the movement I want to see happen in the United States, I want to see more of the individualistic restaurants,
Right.
whether it's chef driven, where this is my menu, this is what I want to serve you.
Right.
We have carte blanche here in Dallas, that's exactly what a carte blanche is. It's the menu that you get.
Yeah.
But I really think that we're actually going towards that. I think people are much more aware of the quality of their product that they're getting.
Yes.
And those are the restaurants that are going to have
They're gonna
the best
thrive.
quality. Well, because they want to be known not just for their service and individuality. They want to be known for this is really good food. This is really good
Absolutely.
product. We have the best Branzino or whatever in the city.
And,
so
and the great experience in terms of service, the ambience.
all of it. All of it matters. I mean,
it all
I'm a
matters.
stickler for lighting. I'm known for that with my if I walk in as the GM and my managers haven't done the lighting correctly, I have a word with them. Because no one wants to feel like they're being abducted. Want the lights
No.
low.
We have the interrogation
That's
light
what I said.
there.
What
you
are
don't
you
want
doing
this
here?
light in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I
No,
get
no.
it.
This fee a lot. So no, I'm very much the candlelight, the low.
we're interrogating. What do you want?
the rose in the room. But no, so I think that all of these things add up. Do you have a candle on the table? Do you, did you pull out the chair for your guests? Do you have a coat rack? Do you have a shawl if someone's cold? All these little things. It's like I think people.
The tablecloth.
They want to feel loved. Like that's what that really is. They want to feel cared for.
Absolutely.
And that's what restaurants really give.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. In New York, I was there recently. The hot thing right now is traditional Greek fast food.
Really?
There's so many
Gyros?
restaurants that are just killing it. Lines out the door just to get the street food, Greek street food. Why is that not in Dallas?
So
is it because it's hard to find the labor? Because it's very labor intensive.
Labor is not really necessarily the problem. I mean, you can always find someone for a prep cook. I mean, it's like
there's Mexicans.
that's very. I mean, there are background.
Everybody take a drink.
No, I think that a big
Mexican.
thing. Yeah, Mexican. No, I don't think it's a labor. I think that it really depends on.
I'm Mexican. That's why I can get away with that one.
He's like, so I can call it my own people. But I think that it's more of things that usually hit New York will hit us later. It's kind of like anything. It's kind of like, the coast kind of always pick up on like a trend and it moves inward in the United States. So, and we're landlocked. Like, we're in the middle. But I think that, the halal guys started in New York and now they're here in Dallas and they're kind of everywhere.
Right.
So I think that if that's what's going on in New York right now, we'll see that in the next probably like 6 months to a year. Dallas is also the one thing about Dallas, though, which is great. We're a food city because we are land. What do you do in Dallas? You go shopping, you eat, you drink.
No mountains, no skiing,
Nothing.
no major rivers.
No, you're either getting on a plane and
ocean.
leaving, or you're hanging out, you're eating and drinking. And
Yes.
so, I mean, right before the pandemic, actually, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Eater or Food. It was a magazine that actually, or maybe it was Gourmet. They actually voted Dallas as like the #1 food city in the United States.
I believe it.
And that was like right as the pandemic hit.
Wow.
So it kind of like, it messed us up a little bit because we were like on that, like, we're getting there with LA, we're getting there with San Francisco and Chicago, and then it muted everything.
Right.
So hopefully we'll get back on that train. But I think that with the Greek, it also has to do with the population that's around. So it's probably because we have a smaller Greek population. There's just not as many restaurants. Like we have a huge Vietnamese population. That's why you go out to Garland and you can get the most authentic, great pho in the world.
Right.
But probably because it's like the Greeks are a little bit north here in Dallas, so maybe there's no one up restaurants. I don't know. Go talk to your people.
Yes, there's something to that.
Go question
Well, that's
them.
what they told me. It's labor intensive for the right stuff. That's why they did.
Well, I mean, what are you referring to? Like the gear? Are you talking about like the gear or the shawarma kind of situation?
The souvlaki, this is the street food.
Okay, well, souvlaki
That's
is
what's hot right now.
Well, the big thing is that is really labor intensive because that dough by itself is like very hard to make.
Right.
It's and it's. I mean, it's I don't know if it's
You got to have the
labor.
guys willing to go in there and.
Well, it's also, I think it's a technique. Like that's a hard technique to pull off, and it's hard to train someone to do that. So I don't necessarily think it's that people don't want to do it. It's that when you lose money on training.
The logistics, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully it gets down here because I love Greek food.
Do you see then over the next, say, 5 years, the number of restaurants like the ones you described that are single-owned, boutique-ish, that are fairly priced so the middle class can go? You
you
want
can
to
dine
get
there more than once a week.
Yeah, you
That's
can
always
get the
goal.
20-something crowd in there, because, I have kids in their 20s and they go, oh my God, if I go to a restaurant here and then 2 martinis later and then 2 main courses, I'm in $250.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And they're making $50,000 or $70,000 a year, and they're going, I'd rather invite the girl over. We have a few drinks, and then we go for something quick.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that
You want those guys in the restaurant,
and 100% you do because those people those are your return customers, those are your brunchers,
and they're going to grow into it.
and they will, and then it becomes a memory. That's another thing with restaurants is
Great day, had a great time,
this is our first date. This was where we had our first anniversary. This is, and I have
or our
tons,
first yada yada yada.
whatever it was.
I mean, when I went back and visited New York for the first time in 9 years, everybody drank. I brought up the trip again. I went back to all my favorite restaurants. That was one of the things
That's
I
what
did.
you do. I mean,
Yes.
I have guests that literally come in, and it's funny. My guests tend to text me personally, so I give my number out. So I'm like, just if you need a table, call me.
Right.
Like, I mean, I had a family tonight that I got a text this morning. Can you get, it's the 4.5 in tonight? Absolutely. And like, I make a baby plate for the baby every single time. And
Great.
every birthday, every anniversary, like there are certain people that I see, they're like, we come here every year. This is my birthday spot. This is where we had our, it's our 5th anniversary. This is where I like I've had proposals. I actually threw a wedding recently,
wow.
like in the past, 3 months. It was,
great.
she's like, well, this is like our wedding, but we're going to go down and do the big, tropical, but we want to have everyone here. And it escalated but I've done events before, so it worked out. She was like, it's very simple. And I was like, it's never simple. It's your wedding.
Famous last words.
But we made it happen. But no, I think that there's also, there's memories and memories so attached to. I think that's people have feelings about restaurants.
Yes.
But I do think that's
that stimulates the nucleus accumbens.
That's right. It gets us our oxytocin, our dopamine, our serotonin.
Nitric oxide. It's all about nitric oxide.
Is that the new?
And our endorphins. Walking into a restaurant, the anticipation of a meal that you had there, say weeks or months before, and you're coming back, is a huge endorphin release. The anticipation of how great it's going to be.
Oh yeah, it's like it's. I mean, like I said, like when I'm not at work, I'm probably out dining.
Yeah.
Like, and I love dining.
So you try different spots, like the competition.
Oh,
Perhaps?
absolutely. You think I go like. Check everyone out.
Dark glasses.
Well, the thing is, we all know
Cloak
each
and
other.
dagger,
So I mean,
cloak and dagger.
I'm sitting there like, I'm like, so you try and
Is that you, Alyssa?
Yeah, I know. No,
I don't speak English. En español.
Yeah, I could just speak.
I'm an
Spanish.
actress de Madrid.
No, I think and especially in Dallas, like we all kind of know each other. So it's actually a little bit the opposite, where it's like, hey, I'm coming in. Well, can you hold a spot for me at the bar? Can you grab me a table? And we all text each other and kind of help each other out. But yeah, no, we definitely. I think it's also the restaurant world because it's so small, you have to be really supportive of each other as owners and operators. So we go out to the friends and family, we get invited, like we all know each other. So when I open the upcoming restaurant, which is going to be contemporary Asian, predominantly Chinese, like I already have friends in the industry that are like, you're going to get me in, right?
Right.
Like I'm going to be there for friends and family. We got to try it out, because it's also when you have people who are in the industry come to an opening, they're going to see things that like a regular customer won't, and you want them to see it because it's like, hey, this was an issue. This was undersalted. This was way too sweet. Like you want that feedback, and restaurant people are going to be honest with you because they don't want you to get the complaints that will come from these. So that's why you have friends
to improve
and
it and so on.
So
because it's a tight community and live, who's who, families that have been in the biz for decades, or even longer, it must be great when you see a restaurant succeed.
Oh, it's the best.
That goes past that 2-year mark.
Oh yeah.
Or when do you call it a success?
So it's when you get in the black, and you have to assume
is that a 3 year?
It's about 3 years.
3 years
on average. I mean, it depends on what resources does that person have. Like, is your owner a restaurateur, or is it like some guy who's in real estate who just wants to like bring his friends in and comp the tab, and like all those things affect what's going on. It's like you want to comp for your regular guest, you want to like send out an app or here's your birthday or whatever, but you also don't want to give away the house. So it depends on who your owner is. It depends on, one of the reasons that, or one of the major reasons that new restaurants tend to fail is that it's a non-restaurant person thinking that restaurants are easy and it's fun. And it's like restaurants it's a living, breathing organism. Like it's in constant change. So they get.
I have a line that I can't, because I used to be, my ex-wife and I had a restaurant. When you have a restaurant, you set your own hours, 24/7.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Something could go wrong.
Feel free to use it. It's original.
I mean, I'm going to start saying that all the time because I'll look at people and I'm like, even when I'm not, I'm always like, even when I'm not working, I'm working.
Right.
I mean, because I'll get a call from a guest, or, hey, the oven went out. What do I do? Or it's like, it's a constant. And so I think the reason that majority, like aside from like massive, pandemics like COVID that just kind of wiped everyone out in one go, I think that a big reason that I think it's around somewhere between like 65 and 85% of new restaurants fail. And it's because people get into restaurants and the idea that it's fun and it's easy, which it is. If you love it, it's great. But it is incredibly hard work.
Well, it's tedious, right? It's a lot of details.
It's a lot of details. It's, everything's happening at once. Right. You have to be your head has to be on a swivel all the time. Otherwise, you will miss something.
Okay, so because it is such a difficult business, who is the most important person? Is it the chef and the one who sets the menu, or the general manager that's running it? Or is it
I'm a firm believer that your two most important staff members are your dishwasher and your hostess.
Wow.
They are your front line.
Unpack that one.
I mean, the first thing with the hostess is essentially the face at your door.
Right.
He or she, usually it's a girl. I always tell my hostess, I'm like, I want champagne bubbles. When a guest walks in, I want, hi, what's going on? Are there allergies or something? Like, people want that energy, and it sets the whole tone for their dinner, like for their dining experience. And then I say my dishwasher is my my last line, where anything happens to the dishwasher, nothing else is moving.
Right.
If he's not washing those pans, getting those dishes hot, whatever's going on, how can we cook?
In
How
medicine,
can we
we
serve?
say the same thing about the gastrointestinal system. If
That fails,
doesn't work,
everything fails.
something like that, right?
Yeah, something around those lines. But yeah, that one's gone. It's gone. But so those, to me, I think that of course the chef's important, of course the general manager important. But like I look my staff, and my point to them is always I'm there to help them. Like, yes, I'm there to help my guests. Yes, of course, like I'm going to walk around and like that's the best part of my job is I get to go like,
You can socialize.
I can socialize. And,
But
like,
you're
I mean, I
working, but
remember
you're really
when-
working.
But I'm working. But I mean, that is my work, which is the best
Yes.
part. I mean, I remember when we met, like
Right.
I was like, you got to taste this wine.
Yeah.
And, you
I
ended
said,
up-
great.
And you said,
Great.
great. And it's like, that's what you end up drinking. And
Yes.
like, that's fun for me. Where it's
Yes.
like, let me know your palate. I want to bring you
I wanna
something.
see- Right.
But I think that, the job of like management generally, which a chef is a manager, he's a manager of the kitchen. You're there to make sure that your staff has the tools they need to pull their job off, because if
Right.
your staff is working well, you don't need to worry about your guests.
Right.
If your staff's happy, your guests will be happy.
Right.
And, that's when you get the regulars that I only want to sit with, this server, or this is I know when my bar, I can only come in on Tuesday nights because I know that this is when this bartender's
Right.
behind the bar. And like, that's how you get those regular customers, because they like you, they like the people. So, but I definitely think hostess and dishwasher would say.
Another question that occurs to me, is it important to have a seasonal menu, or is it more important those daily specials?
I think that daily specials are great like, for the rest out, because a daily special is how you kind of get through your product. So, you have a little bit of, you make a sauce out of like a leftover, have lemon, so it might be going bad, or they're getting close
Right.
where they're kind of getting like off. You can't use them in drinks, but you can definitely make a really cool like lemon sauce from them.
Right.
And then, you put that on a great piece of fish. People are going to love that. So specials, and I do think seasonality matters, because who wants a peach in the middle of winter?
Right.
They're not ripe. They're not going to taste right. And that is where the chef is really important, because he needs to understand the seasonality of his ingredients and what's available,
Fresh.
and what's fresh. And like, that's what's going to be good at that time of year. I mean, winter, you're hitting root vegetables, you're hitting venison, you're hitting like those heavier.
Meats
it's also
and
just
so on.
even the you have to look at the climate that you're in. We're in
Right.
Texas, so summertime, you don't want a big heavy braised, pot roast, whatever. You want something light. You're going to be more fish, things
Right.
like that. You have to think about
Like
religious holidays. So,
Absolutely.
during Ramadan, you have to make sure that you have halal.
Yeah.
During Lent for the Catholics, like you want to have major fish specials on a Friday. So all
Right.
these things like matter in terms of like, I do think seasonality is huge.
Right. I would say so. You were
So,
gonna say?
I have a question. So, you've done almost everything in the restaurant business.
I have.
Do you have any desire to have your own place?
I definitely do. I don't know. I almost feel like if I open up my own place, I'm going to know what I need to do. I need to do it. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm like, I know. But yeah, no, I definitely have like about 5 or 6 concepts in my head.
Any of them Greek?
One's very Mediterranean.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm never, dolmas are my favorite. I can eat dolmas like it's popcorn.
That's my mom's favorite.
Is it? Does she
Yeah.
make great ones? Do you have the recipe?
Oh, no, she's not Greek. She just eats them.
Oh.
But they are her favorite.
They are favorite. I'm like, is there a recipe that I can have? Because I definitely wouldn't know how to make it. No, dolmas, they're always in my fridge.
That's the grape leaves wrapped around rice and
Yes,
other
I'm
things. Yeah.
familiar.
Gosh, it's the best. So like, I love.
A Greek trying to educate me on dolmas. Come on. Who would
Well,
have
they're
thought
all
of that?
different. The Lebanese make them a little differently. Like that's like
Yeah.
they all have their own little variation. And
Are you going to teach me about tacos too?
You know, the history of tacos are actually that's
Greek, of course.
it's from the
Yes, I knew it. The Acropolis.
everything's from Greece.
The Acropolis was a
You
taco
You
restaurant.
ask a Greek
No,
anything, and it's like, yeah,
they
because they
changed
came
it to
from
corn.
Greece.
They
Yes.
changed it to corn because it was Mexico. But yeah, that shell that was originally we didn't use ground beef. We used
You
the
know,
pork.
They had
and
a
the
taco
chicken.
stand at the Acropolis. I get it.
Well,
He's like, yeah.
actually, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
If you look at the history of
Oh
where
my
the taco
God,
came, it was from the
So,
immigrants from the
what is
Mediterranean.
the natural lifetime of a restaurant?
It just depends. I mean, there's like I said, there's restaurants that in Olsen World I think was like 1725, but it just depends on. I think the trends are a big thing. What I've noticed is, generally speaking, the best way to make sure that a restaurant survives is you have a menu that people will always gravitate towards. Like, you don't want to be so trendy, and I think a lot of chef-driven restaurants make this mistake because chefs are great at cooking. They're not usually good at business. So you got to make sure that you have one with a good head on your shoulders. And sometimes they get so intense about the product and and the technique and what they're making, where it's like it's not even approachable at this point.
Right.
For a restaurant to really survive, like you want your regulars that come every single Tuesday, every single Friday, like
Right.
you know what I mean. So that's when you get too trendy. I think that's when you kind of fail. But but certain places like New York and San Francisco, you can get away with that because you have such an influx of like
The tourists.
you have the tourists and
We
they're
don't
gonna
have
go.
that
We don't
here.
have that here. So here, I mean, I believe that Shinsei is on its like 17th year.
Yes.
And I love Shinsei. I used to work for
Right.
Lenny and Tracy. They're amazing. But I mean, Shinsei's at its 17th year. I mean, actually has a lot of restaurants that really have just like, I mean, Mi Casino, like how long has that been around?
Yeah.
Forever?
Dallas, I think you either fail or you become an institution.
Well, I mean, yeah, Albernays. I mean, what was
Absolutely.
he? He was the concierge at the Palm.
Yeah.
And people loved him. So just went and made his own steakhouse. And we all know, like, when you think about steak in Dallas, you're doing what, Nick and Sam's,
Yeah,
Albernays.
Yeah.
I mean, these are, and I think that's right. I really do agree with that statement, actually. Like, you sink or you swim, and they're like, you're either there for a year and a half, 2 years, or you're there for 25.
It reminds me of what they say about musicals. Broadway.
What do they say about a musical?
They say it's a very hard way to make a living, but you can make a killing.
But yes.
Interesting.
I mean, that's pretty much
That's the restaurant business in
that's
Dallas.
nail on the head. Like, I mean, it's just you're either great at it or you're not. Go in between. And I think
Right.
that's kind of goes back
Makes
to
sense.
people who get into restaurants thinking that, oh, I'll just open up a restaurant.
It'll be
It'll be so
fun.
great.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't even know what you upped into.
Right,
and
right.
now you're God knows how many
Let me
hundreds.
tell you about grease traps.
Oh my God, the worst. Like so bad. Or just there's so many moments. I mean, or the Ansel system going off, blowing up on the line, and you're out for like
wow.
2 or 3 weeks. I mean,
So on a more futuristic or perhaps already here, how do you think AI is going to impact the restaurant business? And I'm not talking about chain fast food.
no, you're talking
I'm
about
talking great quality businesses.
well, I mean, I think is it at what is the restaurant down the street? It's the
Here, where
yeah,
we are
it's right
in
here
Dallas?
off of Knox. It's Laduni.
Okay.
They have like robot waiters.
Oh, they have robot waiters
Yeah,
now.
apparently they have. I haven't seen it
Oh.
personally, but I've had people who have been there and gone. They're like, it's so
Creepy.
like it's just. Well, I mean, because it's so like it comes over and it like drops off the food, and like they started during COVID because they
Right.
were worried about interaction and
Right, right.
people touching. But I think for the boutique restaurants, I do not see AI becoming a thing because
Right.
Not even in the back of the house.
I mean,
On what? I mean, on ordering.
Oh, if you can have a robot sous chef that
just chops onions and whatnot.
Yeah,
I
does
mean,
it perfect.
this is perfect. Brunoise, amazing. But I think that possibly with maybe prep.
Okay, Mexicans, you need to go back to Mexico now.
You guys, you better start learning to chop onions real fast because there's a robot coming for your job. No, I think front of house. I don't think you have to
boy.
worry. I don't
Right.
think you have to worry for actual chefs because I think that
People want that.
people. It's every recipe. It's the best advice I was ever given was a sous chef in New York when I was working at the Modern, and I am predominantly German and Irish, and I was following this recipe right, and I was making pasta for the line. Not get the dough. Like I could not figure out. It was too dry, and I'm trying to add oil, and I'm behind, and I'm trying to go to service. And not only do I have to make this pasta, I have to go roll it out and fill it. And I only have I'm like an hour and a half behind. I'm freaking out. So go grab my executive sous chef. His name was Julian. He was the quintessential New Yorker, very sharp, very dry. Did not care what he said to me. And I'm so frustrated, chef. Like, what is going on? How do I handle this? He's like, Alyssa, Germans don't make pasta. He goes, like flat out, he goes, Germans don't pasta. Italians make pasta. You need to think like an Italian. You're not building a car. So the reason I don't think the AI will
that's great advice.
it's probably the best advice I was ever given as staff where he's like, you need to feel it. He's like, Italians feel things. They don't just build things. And he's like, you're not building. He's like, you're feeling, you're creating. And I was like, I don't know. It
resonated.
It just resonated with me.
Yeah.
So I can make the best pasta in the world now, but that's why I don't think the AI would maybe like the
Right.
chopping onions or the peeling or the washing or something like that. But I just don't
Washing
see
dishes.
it. Washing dishes. I could see that.
Yeah.
Definitely being a thing. But
not a bartender that goes.
no. Bar top
And then
people
you pick
love
the
their bar.
conversation, and they go, "Oh, baseball. Do you like New York Yankees?"
Yeah, like that's what it
Pick
and
the
that's-
team you want to talk about, and
people
the guy
want-
will talk to you back.
The interaction's what matters, and I think when you're actually dealing with food, like so much love goes into food. Like you would feel and taste the difference if you have someone. Because I was following that recipe perfectly, it still wasn't coming out right.
Yeah.
So I don't think the robot's not going to have the nuance to be like, okay, well I need to add this. It's not.
No,
I don't think it's going to work.
They're not going to feel it.
They're not going to feel it. You
because
got
they
to
have
feel
no
it. You got to
feelings.
be an Italian.
Yeah. Okay, but I can see a single guy going there. I got a female robot for you. What nationality, personality, accent would you like? Boom, boom. And the robot has dinner with the guy.
I don't think.
No?
No.
Won't work.
That would be terrifying. I would never like.
You could see all of a sudden all these single guys going, "I'd like the robot," and she didn't eat anything.
Yeah, she didn't eat anything. She was the cheapest date.
Yes, it was great.
Oh my
Yeah, it cost me $25
She did not take the
to
fries
rent it.
off my plate.
Yeah, and I could call her names, and she'd go, "Oh, that was wonderful." And
She didn't talk back?
Yeah, and told me how great I
I
am.
just asked me about my job, left me alone, knew when to stop talking. Oh my God.
That would be a SNL.
Oh, that'd be a great SNL skit.
yeah.
It's like, it reminds me, what was my favorite SNL skit is the ninja,
Yeah.
the ninja deli, like the old school.
Yeah, the
You throw the tomatoes
John
in the
Belushi.
Yeah, it's so great.
My favorite was the Robert Wagner when he was the ultimate dream date, but he had horrible table manners. Have you
I've
Oh,
seen
never
that one?
seen that one. Is it
it's
amazing?
I mean, it's just hilarious because he's like the ultimate debonair guy. And then they bring out his food and he's like, and it's making a mess. And the girl all of a sudden is horrified, but he's like, excuse me.
I'm looking this up tonight.
it's
I'm
amazing.
watching tonight.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But anyways, so we're glad you were able to make it today, and
Well, thank you
and
for having
join
me.
us.
This is really fun.
It's great to see amazing restaurants do well in Dallas. I think it's part of our collective well-being.
It is.
And
Definitely is.
I hope that the new restaurant is a huge success.
Well, you're going to
and-
come see me.
Yes, absolutely.
You always have a table.
Yes,
You have my number.
I will definitely go, and I will do it
Traditionally,
early
if
in
you're
the
on a
night.
podcast, you have to invite the podcast
Yes,
host.
but
So
we-
I'm feeling friends and family. Is that the deal?
Yes. And we eventually, once we get a little bit more, well known, we're going to do various shows, not busy Monday afternoon, 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Bring in a guest, talk to the chef,
Absolutely.
go into the kitchen, see how my 2 favorite dishes are done, talk to the som,
What are
and
his-
bring
what
a
are his
couple of
2 favorite
wines.
dishes?
Well,
I'm trying to think what you were eating that day when I met you.
yeah, well, that was a lunch.
Yeah, there's a
thing.
lunch thing. I haven't seen him eat dinner.
Yeah, we had
Veggies.
and I'd be
The answer
very-
is veggies.
Veggies. But the point is that I think that's will enhance lifestyle, with
Yeah, absolutely.
medicine, heart, and the heroics of the restaurant business.
It's, someone's got to do it. I always say that doctors take care of people physically,
Yeah.
restaurateurs take care of people emotionally.
yes, I would
And
say that.
we need both.
You got to have us both.
You gotta have
essential.
Like, you don't, you have to have him, but you don't necessarily want to have to go to him. People, I'm the everyday. He's the big
Once in a
emergency.
while, yes. We do preventive care. And I think this is why this topic is so interesting to me, because part of it is emotional well-being.
Absolutely.
And the community that a restaurant brings, especially in an important restaurant or a set of restaurants in a particular community, are essential to the community's overall mental health.
I completely agree.
Yeah. And I like it when the parents bring the kids and the kids are well behaved and they learn proper table manners.
Well, I mean, it's real
It's great.
socialization. Yes. And I'm at a restaurant right now that is very family friendly, and my kids are all super well behaved.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah. And they say thank you and please, and they
Oh,
wear
absolutely.
their napkins in a cute
They're not
way.
jumping up and running
Yeah.
around. They're not yelling and screaming. Like we love our kids.
Yeah. So with that,
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for
Alyssa.
having me.
Alyssa, it's been great.
This has been the Leverage Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Davio Venturis, Dr. Suave, our guest, Alyssa. Please follow us and rate us on Spotify. You can follow us and subscribe on YouTube. We're on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on TikTok. Please share. If you enjoyed this podcast, go back and listen to some of our other episodes.
And all of you go out to a restaurant this weekend.
Go
Enjoy
someplace
it.
new.
Please.
Go be adventurous.
Absolutely.
Have a martini.
2.
why are martinis like a woman's breast?
Oh, why?
Not enough and 3's too many.
Oh, mine.
I love that. I'm using it. I'm not sorry at all.
That's,
Thank you. You have a couple of those.
Here's everybody.
Leverage.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.